All right, Coach, thanks for joining me on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Really do appreciate you taking the time today. I've always been interested in Marietta since my days of playing against you all in my 4 years at Mount Union. So, I do appreciate you taking the time.
I know it's a big step for you to actually interview a guy from Marietta.
Yeah.
So,
well, let me tell you something. This has been a really rough week for me. I mean, a terribly difficult week for me. So, on the lighter side, like I'm having some health cough thing, like it's a cold or something. So, my youngest son tested positive for COVID, but he's now tested negative, so we're all good there. I interviewed Coach Mladenovic at John Carroll. Yeah, at yesterday. And now today I'm interviewing you for Marietta. And as a former Mount Union grad,
gotta kill you.
It's burning me. It's burning me. So as I did yesterday, the only way I could get away with getting through this. So I'm ready to roll here now that I'm properly geared up. I have friends who are probably going to reach out to me and be like, "What are you doing? What are you talking to them for?" So,
well, I'm sure Krems will be awaiting the phone call to interview him about the Mount Union program.
I did email him. We're working on dates. So he was the first one I reached out to because we have to follow a particular order, and if not, I'll get in real trouble. So,
yep.
Hey, Coach, you've been again. Thanks for joining. You've been head coach at Marietta since 2013, and I was just hoping you can talk a little bit about that journey. I know we talked a little bit about before we started recording, like how you went from a corporate world to a coaching position. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, in terms of, first of all, thanks for doing this. This is a lot of fun, and what you do for D3 soccer is just tremendous. And
Thank you.
I think every coach that spends time watching this appreciates that you just talk about D3 soccer and the love of the game, because that's what we do it for. And so I've watched a bunch of your interviews. I thought your Jay Martin interview was brilliant.
Yeah.
I passed it on to so many folks. That was one of the real fun ones to watch. Certainly you got a chance to interview my old assistant, Ben, down at Transy. We can make fun of Ben all day long.
Oh, awesome.
But I came at this job significantly different than most. I was corporate life for 23 years. I sold for 3M Company, and I sold to the Home Depot the last 16 of those 23 years. And my main line was blue tape. So if you walked into a Home Depot, even today, you'd see, and walk into the paint department and see their tape set. That's what I sold. So it was a lot of fun. It was a tough job. Now, during that time, I coached 16 of those 23 years. Just as a part-time coach. First off at Occidental College in Los Angeles when I was living out there. I just basically worked with the goalkeepers because that's what I was. I was a goalkeeper. I did that for fun, and I also did that to be able to take advantage of their training facilities because I was still playing at that time. I played in the USL for 8 years. Some kids think, wow, that's really cool. You played in the USL. Well, the USL back in the 90s was significantly different.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
The money was not there. The crowds were not even close to what it is. I mean, when I played in Los Angeles, it was girlfriends and friends and family. That was it. Chico, which was much different. That was a great experience. They drew a lot of fans there. Anyway, so Oxy, then I got transferred to Atlanta from 3M. And I wanted to keep coaching. And there was a private women's college literally down the street, maybe 300 yards from my house. So I called up the coach and said, hey, do you need somebody to help? And they said, yeah, we could certainly use you help, but we can't pay you anything. Oh, okay. Well, welcome to, assistant coaching in D3 world. So I did that for a year, and then the head coach, he left, and I got that job. So I was the head coach at Agnes Scott College in Decatur, Georgia, 10 seasons, and it was an absolute blast. The kids bought into everything we were doing. Not a big roster. You would laugh about the roster sizes that we had, but we managed to make it work. We managed to win games, and we had a lot of fun, which just lit the fire to, all right, what can I do if I could do this full time? Fast forward 10 years, my last season there, we win our conference tournament. A bit of an upset. The kids did well. We won in penalties, and we went to NCAAs, which was my first experience in the NCAAs, and that was a blast. So thought myself, well, what can I do? Can I do this full time? How can I do this full time? Well, first of all, you lose corporate salary. You know this.
Yeah.
That's a huge chunk. I had to do it in a small town, somewhere where I could afford a house, because I couldn't do that where I was living in Georgia. The house was too much. It was based on the corporate salary. So Marietta came open, and I remember I was on the women's side, and I interviewed for the men's job, and my AD, Larry Heiser, said, I'm probably going to get shot if I hire a women's coach for the men's program. Well, it turns out he called me up after the interviews and said, well, we're going to go a different direction, and we've offered the job to somebody else. All right, I appreciate the phone call. Thanks very much. I go back to my corporate life. I'm just fine. I will continue to coach at Agnes, and that feeds my need for soccer. Well, 24 hours later, he calls up. We've changed directions. We want to offer you the job. Well, long story short, I accepted it, and literally 4 weeks later, I was in Marietta working spring practices. And I can tell you right now, and any player that was on that roster those first couple of years, they wanted no part of me as their head coach. The only guys that wanted me were the goalkeepers, because I promised them that we'd get them gloves, which is something that Marietta never did. Never bought that gloves. You were an ex-keeper. You understand it.
Yeah.
You want gloves. You want a jersey.
Holy mackerel. That's bonus right there. Gloves. Oh, geez.
Yep. So I had those guys in. Nobody else in. It took a while to get them to convince that I could do the job. I told them in my interview, it's 22 players, a ball, and a field. It's just, different gender. So it was a rough start, to be honest with you, in terms of getting the guys to buy in. It took a good year, 2 to get the guys to buy in. So left that corporate life. I kind of did both for a little while, just because I hadn't moved up here yet. Had to sell the house in Georgia, get the family up here. And so I've been up here. This will be season number 10 this fall, which has flown by. It really has. And I've enjoyed every minute of it, except, those losses, you don't enjoy them as much. But other things we can talk about later on. I know you have some thoughts and questions. That it's changed here. It's changed a ton in the 10 years. And part of that is because the president of the college changed and is really committed to athletics and really committed to doing things the right way. So left corporate life, came to do this, took that huge pay cut, which was okay because I could afford to do it. I joke that I'm cash poor, retirement rich. My old boss's boss said, do you realize what you're giving up when you leave 3M at that time? That's what I worked for, 3M. And I was on a pension. And I now realize how much I gave up. There's a lot. But it's okay. There's still a pension there. We'll be all right. But I get to wear shorts to work every day. Even in the dead of winter, I get to wear shorts to work every day. Yeah. And I don't have. This is not coming into work. It's not stress. It's not hard. It's fun.
Yeah.
Hope that answered your question.
I like I said before, there's a part of me that's jealous. I've talked to coaches and they're like, well, the assistant job is open. And I'm thinking, in my grandiose mind, like, oh, that would be great and this and that. And then the first thought of economics comes up and I'm like, yeah, that's not happening.
It had to be in a small town such as Marietta. Where the housing is. I mean, my house was half as much as my house in Georgia, twice as big. So
twice as big,
there had to be parameters that could make it work. And I played at Marietta, so graduated from Marietta, so I understand the college a little bit. And that helped. Familiar with the area, put it that way.
Hey, so you mentioned you were a goalkeeper. So a question for you. Would you like to participate in an experimental live stream where I have the head coach from Cortland, the goalkeeper coach from Randolph-Macon, a guy I know who has a goalkeeper company, and I want to talk about the top, I'll just say generically, top 10 attributes that make a good goalkeeper.
Sure.
It's going to be in 2 weeks. I hope to figure that out, but I'll send you information. It should be. It's experimental. Like, we're just going to talk, but we could talk about that offline. And then just to say, I've played in the USL as well, and I played in the APSL, and I played in the NPSL, and I played
all the alphabets.
All the alphabets. Probably for about 5 years as I tried to make a go of soccer. And I'm still trying to figure out where the glamour was, because it was not. It was not.
I mean,
it was not.
I played for 8 years. I played for 3 different teams, and it got better, the teams wise. But it was, I swear, I'll never eat at another Denny's. I'll never stay at a Motel 6, because that's just what you did in that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we would fly places. We would go to Hawaii every year and play Hawaii. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
But the team in Hawaii would do this to you. You'd play in the main island, you'd play in Oahu the first night, and you'd fly to a different island the next morning and play in a different island. And, of course, soccer players, we're going to go out and have a couple of beers after the game. Well, we got to get up at 6 a.m. We got on a flight. Second game, every year we always get just smashed.
Yeah.
Not in a good spot to be able to handle that.
Yeah.
Just the way things were a lot different back then, right?
Yeah. That's great. Hey, and what is it? You've been at this for a while, including the part-time at Agnes Scott, and those were girls. But do you notice any difference in the types of players that you recruit now?
Yes. Let's go back to Agnes Scott. Coaching and recruiting at a single-sex institution is a huge challenge.
Yeah.
Think about this. Only 5% of the available student population we would consider a single-sex institution. So you're really...
wow, I didn't know.
I was blessed at Agnes, really good academic school, really high-end. Did a nice job back in those days of meeting need, because they had a pretty sizable endowment. They had a really neat school. So we could get it done. We could recruit and do those things. Coming here, I would say in the last even 5 years, players are better. They're more technical. You think about this. When you and I were younger, I think I heard you say this. Soccer made in Germany. That was it. It was a half-hour highlight or an hour highlight. That's all we got.
Yeah.
I spend every night watching soccer on TV.
Yeah.
It's nonstop.
Yeah.
So kids are better. And I'm sad when I see Agnes. It's gone downhill performance-wise. It's just not the same. But it's recruiting. And we can get into this, but I approach it in a totally different manner. It's very much a sales call for me. And we're trying to impress that, student athlete that this is the place they need to come spend the next 4 years. And not always successful. Players are way more adept at things. They're better athletes, they're better players. They're a bit more savvy as well.
Yeah.
So I think it makes our job a bit easier, to be honest with you.
Yeah. That's somebody I can't remember who mentioned it, that said that they thought the head coach's position, 80% of that job should be focused in on recruiting, because that effort is what's going to translate to the 3 months in the fall, in terms of how good a team can be.
Yeah, I would like to say I agree with that. I'd like to be able to say I do that, but I get pulled in a lot of different directions here. I teach here at the college. I'm on a bunch of committees.
Mm-hmm.
They tap into that corporate
Yeah.
mentality, corporate background.
Yeah.
So I get pulled. And that's why a good assistant
Yeah.
for me is so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've had some good ones.
Yeah.
I had, obviously, Ben was with me for 6 years.
I thought he's a really impressive guy. I was really, for a new coach, I was really, really impressed with him. Really impressed.
Yeah, he was ready a couple of years ago. He wanted the I don't want to say the perfect job, but he wanted the job that he wanted. And Transy's going to be a great place for him. He's going to be real successful there. So I'm counting on my assistant to help that a lot.
Yeah.
And that's, again, maybe that's a little bit different than maybe what Dehan does up at John Carroll or Krebs up over at Mount. But I'm pulled in so many different directions. You look at my calendar; it is jam full every day.
Yeah. You well, that makes me more appreciative of you joining me. What do you teach?
I teach 2 sections of Principle of Selling. So basically a sales class.
Sales class.
In the B&E department. And man, is it fun. I love doing that.
Yeah.
All coaches, we all like to talk, right?
Yeah.
And I get a forum twice a week for an hour and 15 minutes to talk. Even better. But it's all real world stuff. The class it was originally one class, and it got full, and they added more students, and they said, can you do another section? Yes, we can do another section. So I do, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 o'clock until about 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's fun. I do it in the spring, so it doesn't really coincide or run into problems with the fall season. Although our spring 21 season, as you know, we had the COVID year.
Yeah.
Well, that threw everything off. I'm teaching for the first time, and I'm coaching in the spring, and we're doing this. Oh my goodness, it was crazy.
Yeah, you're becoming a therapist, as someone said. I talked to, right? Psychologist, therapist, counselor. Just.
So teaching is a lot of fun, and I look forward to that. And I want, when I'm in a class, I want those students to interact. Man, those first few weeks are so tough because the students are just
clammed up.
Quiet. They just sit there. Once we get going and they start understanding me and I understand them, it gets to be a lot more fun. At least I think it does. I hope they do too.
In a former life, I was a professor or an adjunct professor of, and I taught ancient history in Western Civ. And
well, that's gotta be tough.
I loved that. Was so much fun. But like you get, corporate life, it just sort of everything conflicts, and it just after a while, I just couldn't. It was untenable for me. Hey, how you mentioned that the first couple of years, only the goalkeepers gravitated towards you. Like, how long did it take for you to get to a spot where, I don't want to say your program, but how long before you sort of got comfortable and said, okay, it's now on that track that I want the program to be on?
So those first 2 years, my first year here, we won 4 games. And that was, you're going to think this is funny, but every player, and I think you'll agree with this, has an ego, right? Every coach has got an ego.
No.
We can make the OAC playoffs, no problem. No chance. I won 4 games my first year here, and we won 1 conference game, and that was an upset. And we did make the playoffs. The second year, we made the playoffs, and we overachieved. And the guys started to buy in there, and the recruiting class was not much that first year because you're so late. It really didn't start until about 2015, which would have been my 3rd season, that we started to turn around. I got guys in that recruiting class and the next couple to buy in to what we were trying to do, to take a chance, because we weren't good. Nobody wants to come to a program that's not good. So we had to sell a vision, and we started to do that. And I got a guy out of Cincinnati, Andy Rolfus, who was a Cup player, which is one of the premier teams in Cincy, to commit to come to Marietta, and a couple other guys in that class. And that started to turn it slowly. Took a couple more years to really get there. And by about 2017, I felt like they were buying in. we were on the right path. There was no more talk of he's just a women's coach. And that really went away after the first, if you ask my guys, the first year. I think they started to buy in. We just needed to get better athletes in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a hell of a coach when I got good soccer players to recruit. I'm a terrible coach when you got players that aren't as good.
Yeah.
So that's just, an old saying, but it took me probably 3-4 years before I felt like we were on the right path.
Yeah.
Now we made playoffs, but we got bounced out in the first round. We really weren't in it. We weren't very attractive to play, and we didn't have the facilities that we have now. Everything changed when we put the blue turf in. I mean, that really made it a lot easier to recruit in terms of getting guys attracted to Marietta, because it's Southeast Ohio. They don't understand it. They don't. If they're a Cleveland kid, why do I want to go to Southeast Ohio? Well, there's good things about down here, so that was a challenge.
All right, let's go there. The the blue turf. So, and this goes to the other sports as well. But I noticed the OAC. I think you might be one of the few teams that has their own field, right? You're not playing on the football on the football stadium.
Northern has their own field.
Oh, that's right. Ohio Northern does.
Berg has a grass field that they primarily use. They sometimes put in their turf. Everybody else. And I'm sorry, Muskegum has their own field as well.
Yeah, that's new too. Muskegum, that's new as well. I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but is that the fact that the blue turf, which I'll show pictures of because it is pretty cool. Like, wait, is that the first time I watched it? I was like, is the color off? Is the webcam broken? But no, it's blue turf. Does that? You mentioned sort of new president, and I noticed. Look, when I played down your way, I mean, it was a pasture. It was grass pasture, and it was terrible. It's lovely. I mean, Marietta is a lovely place. The river.
100% with you.
Yeah. Is that a commitment by the president to say athletics is important, and then and treat athletics, the sports, each to its own? Excuse me. So, yeah.
Let me answer that a couple of different ways. We got lucky. They added lacrosse.
Mm-hmm.
So playing lacrosse on grass is not great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a grass guy through and through. Traditionalist. I want to play on grass. I want to play on nice grass. And our grass field was nice for about a week. And as soon as you got one rain game.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to Ohio.
Our practice field probably was the field that you played on. By the baseball team. That place was awful to train on. So, the president sees me and actually Ben, and he said, "Hey, do you care if your turf is blue?" And my response was, "I don't care. I just want a nice field." And so he had come from Boise State at one point in his career. He understood the value of that blue field there. It's not the same levels, I understand, but there is something to that. And oddly enough, we had to get a letter from Boise State allowing us to do a blue turf field because they had the trademark on blue turf field. So that gave us a little bit of point of difference, gave us conversations to have. I will tell you, I think 90% of my kids think it's pretty cool. And 90% of the recruits that come on campus think it's pretty cool. The obvious question is, Coach, is it hotter because it's blue? And it's not hotter because it's blue. It's the black crumb rubber that makes it hot. So it's not really any hotter, although my players would probably beg to differ, but I'm out there with them. But the president understands the value of athletics. Our current president, Bill Root, understands the value of athletics. A school like Marietta, a school like Muskie, or a school like Cap or Otterbein, enrollment driven. We're not endowment driven. We don't have huge endowments. We don't have the $300 million that Agnes Scott has. We have $100 million, which is still a great number, but when you compare it to the billions of the big guys, so we need those students. And athletics is a big part of that on a yearly basis. And I'm connected with admissions. I work with admissions. I'm kind of the liaison there. So I know an awful lot about what goes on in our recruiting and the numbers we're bringing in and the numbers we're expected to bring in. It's very much a business. And the president of the college understands to get those students, we've got to have facilities. So we redid our field. We put lights in. We redid the football field at the same time. Recently, we redone the baseball field. The basketball arena, it's got a jumbotron in there. That's really cool. Softball field got resodded this past year. They'd like to turf it at some point. So they put money into athletics and it's paid off. It really has.
Sorry about that. I've been having a coughing fit. So for soccer viewers out there, Marietta has their basketball and baseball is just outstanding. And I will say, having looked at your athletic facilities, look nothing like they were back in the day, right? The baseball field could rival a minor league baseball, professional team.
It's something else.
It's something. Really amazing, right? But that just says something about baseball too at Marietta, which has been historically phenomenal. So let me ask: do you see the success of the other programs and now your facilities? Is that good for you? Do you think it helps the program when you see these other programs be so successful at Marietta?
100%. So when I got hired, the first guy I went to pick his brain, John Vanderwall, men's basketball coach. Brian Brewer, and the baseball coach, does a tremendous job. They've been good forever. Don Shalley before that was there for 40 years. So I wanted to talk to John because John turned a basketball program in that was the laughing stock of the OAC and now is, one of the top two teams in the OAC every year. And I wanted to know how he did it. So I picked his brain for an hour, and he was very gracious to allow me to do that and to be patient with me and the questions I was asking. So I think it helps us. Let's be honest, when we bring recruits on campus, they do a no rank, they go to a basketball game, and this place is sold out, it's rocking, it's great, they're winning games by 30 points. That helps. It's an exciting atmosphere in that basketball gym, and the fact that they sell that thing out all the time. And if they could put more seats in, they'd sell more tickets. And it's the community that gets behind it. They get behind our games, not to the level of basketball, but they do get behind our games. And we draw more fans than most in the OAC. In fact, I'm going to say we probably have the most attended games in the OAC. So these other sports, they help that. Absolutely. Football, OAC is Mount Union.
That's crazy.
Really good at football.
Yeah.
Northern's really good at football. Marietta is right there on the edge. Andy Watto's been here as long as I have, and he's had good years. But man, when you're going against Mount Union and John Carroll every year, and they're top 5 or top 2, it's crazy good. Mount Union football is like Marietta baseball and basketball a little bit. It's a machine. Year in, year out.
Yeah, they rebuild, right? Like every year, it's like, okay, let's go, let's do this again. Yeah. I'm
a little bit fortunate here that each individual sport gets attention.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not, playing second fiddle to baseball or basketball. Yeah. We get just as much attention and priorities as those sports do.
Yeah.
We're not as successful. I wish we were, but
You'll get there.
We're not losing. We're not winning 4 games a year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the part I'm curious about, especially the OAC and knowing football, and it's Ohio, and culturally, I think that's
about having our own field. We share with women's soccer and women's lacrosse. That's it.
Yeah.
So we pretty much get the practice time we want. So we're not training at 7 a.m. or we're not training at 9 o'clock at night. And those are things that I talk to recruits about.
Yeah.
that you go to some of these schools where you share fields, you're not getting on there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. No chance. So it's a nice feature of being at Marietta and the fact that we have these unique fields.
That's why I brought it up, because I watch your game online, and being a soccer player, I'm like, hey, it's blue, but man, that's cool. Like, I would love to play there. But then, and I mean this respectfully, because at Mount Union, what football has done for Mount Union has been nothing short of remarkable since I was there. I mean, it looks nothing like what it was, 30 years ago. But, you're a soccer player, and every time I watch a game online and it's on a turf football field, I just bristle. It just really,
it makes you cringe a little.
Yeah. And it's really hard for me. And so a place like Mount Union, and I always want them to succeed and always want them to win and whatnot. But it's like, man, what could they be if they had their own field like you guys and are competing with John Carroll and the likes? Would that help?
Yeah, I got to give Krems and Carter Poe, who was the coach before David, they play to that field. It is a really tough place to play.
Yeah.
Not a very wide field. Yeah. So it makes the throw-ins and the set pieces paramount. I do think it's one of the coolest places to play at Mount Union.
Yeah.
Because of that grandstand.
Yeah.
It's got a very old school English look to it. The crowd noise reverberates off it.
Yeah.
I just wish we had another 10, 15 yards of width of that
field. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, lovely. It is. It's just, I always wondered that, like, would it be different if they had their own field? And
you probably played at that grass field.
Yeah, 23rd Street field,
that neighborhood,
which was awesome. Like the groundskeeper there was really meticulous about it. It was our practice end game field, so it did get butchered towards the end. But I mean, he rolled that. It was a great. I loved playing there, right? I mean, it was off. It was our own space. And anyhow, okay, so you mentioned this. I mean, almost jokingly, like, talk about that COVID year. Like, how tough was that in everything you're doing? You're teaching, you're trying to, the therapist, and how did your team react, and how did they get through that time period?
So, having watched a number of your interviews now, I knew this question would come, and I may have a different opinion than most. COVID itself, it was something to be feared. It still is, to be honest with you. But the president of the college understood that we needed to have a normal season to the best of our ability. And so we trained in the fall, and then we played in the spring. So you got those 114 days that you were allowed to practice. The NCAA said, all right, we're not doing weeks, we're not doing this, we're going to give you these number of days. Well, I didn't use all 114. And yet I trained 6 weeks before our first game in the spring, and we trained all fall 3 or 4 days a week. So we were ready to play when we played Ohio Northern on that first spring game in March of 2021, I guess it would have been. Because we had trained. You think about this, normally NCAA gives you 2 weeks to get ready for the season, which we could spend an hour on that part. I think that's criminal, but it's all about money.
Yeah.
We can't spend the money to do it properly. So 2 weeks. You're not ready to play a game in 2 weeks. Well, we trained for 6 weeks. Because we're in Southeast Ohio, don't get a ton of snow, we were able to get out there and train. I think we had one snow practice, one cactus canceled because of snow. So we were ready to play when we rolled around because of that 6 weeks. It was such a different experience. So we didn't have to do pods in the fall, which helped. Coaches wore masks. Players, when they were playing, didn't have to wear a mask. There was a lot of things we didn't know about COVID at that time. So we made it through the whole season, and then the final week of the spring season, I lost my senior class to COVID and close contact tracing. So we may have benefited from the way it was set up until that point, but as soon as that hit, that really hurt us as we're going to the semis and the finals of the conference tournament because we had a full-on conference season that year without our senior class because they were all living together, so they all had close contact traced out. So we survived. We won the semis against Wilmington in PKs, and we competed against John Carroll in the finals. And I thought we did pretty well in that game. But so COVID was a little bit different down here. Now, teaching was different. I'm teaching in a mask, so I got to really project. All the kids are wearing a mask. I don't know half the faces. And then it was really weird. We finally got rid of masks in March of this year. I was like, the students in the class said, "Coach, we didn't even know you had a beard." I'm like, well, that's, what wearing a mask will do for you. So it was nice to do away with the mask. The president and the leadership group of the college did a really good job of keeping us in business, on campus, in class, trying to make it as normal as possible, and then by allowing us to have a season, if you will.
That's remarkable. Did you was the 6 weeks? I haven't heard anybody say they had that much training before a first game, like the 6 weeks. Like, was there that much of a difference for your team with those 6 weeks versus the two or it's actually one, right? Because you're doing your scrimmages. Yeah.
Yes. You got to put things into place. You got to work on formation, systems, set pieces, this, that. All these things you don't get time to do in those 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because NCAA said 114 days. You divide it up how you want it. We reported the days we did. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you couldn't do that very effectively in Northwest Ohio or Northeast Ohio unless you're doing it indoors in a gym.
Yeah.
So we were on the field. It was great. That perspective.
Yeah. And not thinking about the COVID when you're senior class.
Let's just talk soccer. It was great to have that 6 weeks. By the time we got to that first game, we were ready to play somebody else other than ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it was. I think we had 5 yellow cards that first game. Well, there was a little frustration there.
Yeah.
Just kept coming dumb fouls.
So almost like horses at pole position, right? Like they're so ready to go and so amped up. It's like, let them go. That's, watch it go. All right, so let's talk a little bit about rules. The first one. What are your thoughts on the changes onto the overtime? Like no overtimes in the season, regular season, no golden goal, and then the 10 minutes.
Well, I was against it when I voted against that change. I've been on both sides of the overtime equation, obviously. Every coach has, but we've been on the bright side of it a little bit more recently, so I kind of enjoy that golden goal celebration.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. And I will say that the NCAA is trying to do things to help the student athletes the health and wellness of them. This is a small piece because you think about it, give us more than 2 weeks to get ready for the season. Yeah. Don't force us to jam all these things into a short period of time.
Yeah.
You're allowed 20 games. I don't do it. I can't do it. 20 games, too many.
Yeah.
But taking overtime away, all right, fine. You took it away, but it is going to be interesting to see how it plays out because you're going to have some teams just playing for that tie.
Yeah.
When I was here my first 4 years, I would have played for a tie every game and been happy.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I was against that rule change. And then I don't have any problems with the 2 full 10s in conference playoffs or NCAAs. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Takes away that golden goal, but gives you it balances it out a little bit, I think, in that regard.
I am falling on the side of I am kind of going to miss the overtime, and I do think there's going to be a change in how you're approaching a game. Like with 15 minutes left,
a team in 10th place in the league playing the number 1 team, they may already do it 11 players behind the ball.
Yeah,
but they're really going to do it now towards the end of the game.
Yeah. They got 15 minutes. It's 0-0. and the other, the number one team can't score, I'm locking it down. Like,
Yeah.
just put all 11 on the line and just have at it, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
So not a huge fan of that one. We'll adjust and deal with it this year.
yeah.
And in 3 years, we'll have forgotten about it.
Yeah. Or they'll change it back, It's
Yep.
So what's interesting is that you had the 6 weeks. I've been thinking about this for a while. Like, why can't the NCAA even just give you an additional week at the front end? Like, what a difference that additional week would do. And I wonder if you had thoughts about that, because I don't think it's realistic. 2 things. I don't think it's realistic for the NCAA to say you get 6 weeks, and so now you're starting in July as opposed to August. And I also don't think it's realistic, as much as the Division I coaches love to talk about it, of splitting the season between the fall and the spring. I just don't. Division III, I just don't think that works. So I'm just wondering, do you have any thoughts about how do you make the season for Division III more, give you a little bit more time, a little bit more flexibility as to how you want to do that, rather than going run every game. I got a game, next game.
I think if you take the model of football and say your report date is August 12th, no matter when your first game is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just making up a date there. Instead of counting back to your first game, don't count Sundays. Once you're in class, you count one day. It's just the goofiest formula.
Yeah.
Just give us a date that we can start.
Yeah.
And if the school doesn't want to start that day because of the institution's policy on, providing meals or anything like that, then okay, fine. That's the school's
choice.
Prerogative.
Yeah.
I think that if we could get that one more week in preseason, and you could even say, you could do like football does. They do that, the period where they're transitioning, getting into it. You could say that. No 2 days until this date.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Fine. But another week up front, another week in the back end, which gets real challenging for a John Carroll or an Al Northern with the weather.
Yeah.
But if you could spread it out just by 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
Which would then, and say, same amount of games, which then allows us to not have to jam things in. To get 18 games in this year, I got to do one back-to-back. Not a big fan of back-to-backs.
Yeah, no.
But I've got a squad deep enough now I can rotate guys and do that. But I feel it's important to give the boys 18 games.
Yeah.
And they've earned that. They want it. If you told a kid you can play 20 games, they'll play 20 games. They don't care.
Yeah.
They just want to play.
Yeah,
NCAA, we started to cut out there a little bit on my end. I don't know if you asked the question about the split season.
I just said I just don't think that's realistic from a Division III perspective.
I'm probably going to get the ire of some coaches. I don't think it's realistic for the Division I model.
Yeah.
Because you've really got to get these staff in there to do that in terms of game event management. And then I'm sure the SIDs aren't going to be thrilled with that. I personally don't see that working.
Yeah.
I would love to see it. Work us down to D3. It's never gonna.
Yeah.
That's going to put us at a little bit of disadvantage in terms of recruiting, because we will recruit guys that can go to a lower level Division I.
Yeah.
And they might not play for the full year. That's going to hurt us.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also going to cost a lot more money, and not many Division III schools are going to be willing to pony that money up to do that.
Yeah. I just don't. It's only going to be a handful of schools that are going to be able to afford doing it. Yeah. Right. Especially, half these schools don't. Most of these schools don't even make money playing with their football programs, right? And it's
TV contracts to make those guys survive.
Think
about the University of Cincinnati. Dump the men's soccer program, and they just keep kicking money into their football program, which did great this year.
Yeah.
You can't tell me you can't afford to budget a men's soccer program at the University of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost that much.
Yeah. No, I agree. Comparatively, what the cost ends up being, you're like, this is chump change. It's like,
Yep.
All right, for your team, do you have sort of non-negotiables? Do you have sets of rules that they must adhere to be part of the program, or do you just sort of?
So in preseason, I go through the presentation of the rules. And they're simple rules. It really is: don't do something stupid, don't be an idiot, don't put stupid stuff on social media. But the one line that I say every year, and then that coaches that have left this building here and have used it in their head coaching job somewhere else, is that you're not going to agree with 100% of the decisions I make, but I'm doing those decisions for the betterment of the program. That is something I get out in front of right away. So doors always open. Yeah, it gets a little bit harder sometimes to get me because I'm busy, but doors always open to talk to my players. I am and Ben would agree to this. He's heard it countless times in the 6 years we were together. Stickler for details. All right. Because I come from that corporate life, I have a little bit more of that mentality.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you could get away with maybe at home, you can't get away with me. And that could be something as simple as practice gear. I give the boys all the practice gear they need, and they have to wear it. And I have sent guys out of practice for not wearing the right gear. That sounds awfully petty, but it's the detail. That means if you can't wear the right practice gear, are you going to show up on time for the bus? Are you going to show up on time for practice? Are you going to miss classes? All the things that you got to do. So we have all of our freshmen meet with our academic resource center once a week when they get here. And that helps them formulate their plan, their syllabus, this, that, and the other thing. It helps them academically. Well, 2 years ago, we had guys just missing these things right and left. And as soon as they miss it, I get an email from the director of the ARC. It's called the ARC. Nothing makes me madder as when guys miss appointments. So I call them in, everybody, all the team, because there are some upperclassmen that still do it as well, required to do it based on their GPA. So guys, if you have a standing appointment with your boss every week, and you miss it 2 out of 4 weeks, you're going to get fired.
Oh my God.
Does not work. So consider this a life lesson. Get your butt to the ARC appointment. Now, we corrected that by sending out invites on Outlook, and I'm on that invite. It goes off 15 minutes beforehand. I send a quick text message to the kid. Things I shouldn't have to do, but I do. After a certain period of time, I trust the guy and I let it go, and they may miss 1 or 2 during the school year.
Yeah.
But so it's detail stuff that just drives me nuts. Cleaning the bus afterwards. We have a good reputation of our bus company that we leave that bus spotless. And it's freshmen that do it, but our upperclassmen are responsible for cleaning their own area. So if they don't do that, if things get left on the bus, it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go make punishment runs, but we're going to have conversations about this stuff.
Yeah.
So do I have a big list of rules? Not really. Simple stuff. But I have rules and the consequences that if they break those rules, that they're going to have to do, something's going to have to happen, whether it be a suspension or something else. So I can't sit here and give you a whole spiel on things, but it really comes around about showing up on time, putting your effort in, you train the way you play. And if you're dogging it, we're going to see it. We're going to not reward you. And if you're putting a huge effort into training, I'm going to try to reward that player. And give him time.
Yeah. Hey, so what for this past, and I'm not even going to talk about the past season. For this upcoming season, do you have some expectations for where you see your team that you could speak to? That you could speak to.
Go back so spring of 21, which was that spring season of COVID, we were good. Things bounced our way, won the overtime games, did well, went to the conference tournament finals. So I had high expectations for fall of 21. Now, one of the downsides of the COVID year, thinking about soccer-wise, you trained all fall, you played all spring, the guys went home and played all summer, came back and played in the fall. There was none of that end of the season November until January rest period that the guys just get. We didn't have that. Really. So I think that affected some of our injury problems. We just got hit with injuries in this fall of 21. So I thought we were going to be good. As a coach, you're not going to say that publicly, but in your mind, you think you're going to be good. You got good players.
Mm-hmm.
We finished 500, and that was a struggle to get to 500 because of injuries. We lost our 3 leading scorers throughout the season, and some of them from the very beginning of the season. ACLs, MCLs, PCLs, broken metatarsal, labrums, just stuff that we haven't had. Just unlucky. It happens. So we survived and made the playoffs, kept that streak going. That was important to us, but by the time we got to play Ohio Northern in the playoffs, we were done. We had nothing left, and we got throttled 4-0. So we come back this fall. We have a good class coming back. But we still have these injuries we're coming off of. Are the surgeries, are they going to be able to jump in and play? And how's it going to work? So I feel good about what we have. But you look at the OAC, and it's a very, very challenging conference.
Yeah. Day
in, day out. So I could think we're going to be good, but Jason up at Otterby has a great recruiting class coming in. Dahan's always got good stuff going at Northern. I know that, or at John Carroll. I know that Northern's got a good class coming in. So, it really depends. I'm optimistic. I'm excited about it. We sit here June, 15th now? It will be here before we know it.
Yeah.
It will fly by these next. I always say when we come back from spring break and start spring practice, it goes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're in summer and then you're in the fall.
Yeah.
So our guys are doing the work they need to this summer. We got a lot of guys playing NPSL this summer, which is nice. So it'll be fun to see how it is in the fall. If they don't come back fit, if they don't come back having played, and they just spend time in the weight room, which is a problem with, I think, the generation that we're in now. They all want to get in the weight room and lift and get bigger, stronger, faster. Guys, the most important thing is still the ball.
Yeah.
But will they spend more time in the weight room than the field? I don't know. It could be, a struggle in the beginning again. So. But I am optimistic. I am excited about it with the quality that we do have coming back.
Yeah.
Nobody probably thinks Marietta is going to be any good because we were just very average last year in terms of record.
Yeah.
And I like it that way.
Yeah.
Us against the world kind of mentality.
That's how you surprise people. That's definitely how you surprise people. Hey, from a recruiting perspective, do you I don't want to say compete for the same types of same players that John Carroll and Ohio Northern and just regionally?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I will say that we compete with Northern an awful lot for guys. We don't compete with John Carroll as much. I don't have a lot of success out of Northeast Ohio. I'd like to have more, but that's because we got a ton of schools up there.
Yeah,
so it's hard. And John Carroll, to be bluntly honest, is a machine right now, and it's very challenging. There are things that we do differently that I would say we do better, but performance-wise, record-wise, it's hard to compete with them at this stage.
Yeah.
So they're very good at the recruiting trail. But we compete with, when you go to these showcases, you see the whole OAC sitting on the sideline. Like, can we not have everybody show up to every event once, please? Not the way it works. So
maybe you can coordinate and be like, okay, one of us is gonna be neutral, so that it's only one of us there, and do the recruiting for everybody.
And most of the conference coaches I get along with great and love sitting down and talking about things. But you're always a little bit close to the vest on who you like, who you don't like.
Yeah, of course.
So, but recruiting it's tough.
Yeah. So the reason why I said we won't talk about the past season is because it dawned on me just like 2 weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago. I was like, why am I talking about the past season? It's already June. Like what happened? And I just been doing this. Like how did we get to June? Nobody cares about the fall, this past fall. So start focusing on the future.
We care about the past fall because it's one of those old lines that if you forget history, you're doomed to repeat it, right?
Yeah.
We got to remember what we did wrong and try to correct that.
Yeah. So knowing sort of the challenges that you had in the fall, like, do you have any like public goals that you would love to say, like, this is sort of what we want to achieve? Whether that's your record, you want to get into the tournament, so that you could publicly say again.
Yeah, but every coach is going to say they want to win the conference title, right?
Yeah. You hope so.
Yeah, we won one conference title.
Yeah.
And I was on that team. Mm-hmm. And that plaque, you can't see it behind me. It's up there on the wall. So, yes, that's always a stated goal. We want to win the conference. We want the conference tournament. But, excuse me, we want to get into the conference tournament. That was the goal for such a long time because the team had not been there for so many years. So that's always a stated goal. Let's get in the conference tournament. Let's compete in the conference tournament. Let's be successful in the conference tournament. Let's put ourselves in the conversation for a potential, if we don't win the conference tournament, at-large bid. Haven't got there yet.
Yeah.
I'm on the regional ranking committee. I understand how that works. We've been dancing around it a little while. But so we set ourselves up every year that we have a tough non-conference schedule. We're going to challenge ourselves. I'm not going to go play, 8 or 9 easy games to have a nice record going into conference. It doesn't do me any good because the OAC is so tough. So we're going to challenge ourselves. I feel like if we can get a good record, in non-conference, leads us into conference and do a similar record there. Even if we don't win the OAC, we can put ourselves in position to get it at large.
Yeah.
We've never been to the NCAA tournament, so for me to say that, my fellow coaches would understand it, but would laugh at me because we've never been there.
Yeah.
We would like to get there. We'd like to win the OAC again. I came here with a goal of restoring the program, of making it relevant again because it had been a long time. It has been very hit or miss, this program, in the history of it. You'd have 2 or 3 good years and 10 terrible years. So the fact that we made the conference 8 years in a row now, I'm proud of that we have gotten to a level where we're doing that. We got to the tournament finals once, and that was in the spring season. Everybody's going to say, well, that was an asterisk season. You got this or that. Okay, fine. So we've got to, the guys want to win the conference. They want to win the conference tournament. Everybody's going to tell you that. We want to compete and put ourselves in the spot that we can maybe get into conversation for an NCAA bid. But none of that matters if you don't come back fit, ready to go. So last year we had these conversations. We talked about it, and we had it in our presentation for recruits. And I regret putting it in there that we wanted to put ourselves in the spot for an NCAA bid, because I thought in the spring season of 21, if we had a full season that year, we would have been in that conversation because we were pretty good that year. But it didn't work out in the fall, so I think I might have jinxed us with that one. Goalkeepers, we're superstitious lots.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so I regret saying that, but that's just to me that's what we sell to our boys.
Yeah.
That we want to be competing in the conference and doing well in the conference. It's not an easy conference.
No. And to your point, and said it before, it's just, when you have a team like John Carroll that is, is a juggernaut right now in the OAC, and then you have a team like Ohio Northern, and then you have another team, Otterbein. It's really hard. I hate to make comparisons. You might as well play in the NESCAC, right? Like, all of those teams are, oh my God, what are you going to do?
It is murderer's row, if you will. Think about it. We sometimes forget that Northern went to the NCAA tournament final in 2012.
Yeah.
And has never had a bad year.
Yep.
Carroll just kind of rose up there and has been probably the premier team in the conference. But then you've got Otterbein that comes in, goes to the Sweet 16 one year, wins a game last year in the tournament. Yeah. And people forget about Alan Yost at Capital. He's got 12, 13 wins every year. Tough schedule.
Yeah.
And then you had Slice at Wilmington this past year, brought them back.
That's another one.
Moved on, and I'm sure Corey will keep that going. I'm like, can we just get a coach in the OAC that is not an up-and-coming guy that just, that maybe isn't going to have it take a couple of years to figure it out? Everybody in the OAC is an up-and-coming coach that probably should be moving on.
Yeah.
But they're not, because they're just making their program so darn successful.
Yeah.
I'm the old man in the conference. Reed, Ayers, and myself, the B-Dub coach, we're similar age. We're old compared to all these other guys.
Yeah. I actually played against Reed. I don't know if you remember, when he was at BW and I was at Mount, we played against each other. That was they were really good back then. They were probably the best team.
he and I get along quite well because we're similar age, similar challenges, similar health things going on, as you can imagine. And we talk a lot during the season. Have a lot of fun just talking about stuff. It's fun to have a friend like that.
I'll have to reach out to him. Even though it'll pain me, but I'll have to reach out to him.
Yeah, you're gonna talk to all the OAC before you talk to Krebs.
Yeah. I'm trying to do that. So, like I said, as painful as it is, I'm crying blood right now. It's so tough to do this. But
the thing about the OAC, it's just it doesn't probably get as much respect as it should in terms of the national picture. But we typically, recent years, have gotten 2, sometimes 3 in the tournament.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because, the D3soccer.com, the boards, there's guys who are sort of junkies of D3 soccer and follow this stuff. And one of the guys, probably during the season, said, I've been watching the OAC teams quite a bit, and because that's a league, that's a conference that should be part of the conversation a lot more than it is, because people don't think about going further west than Pittsburgh. That's and it's true. It's true. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure it is, right? It's got to be.
You want to just get to the top of the mountain and scream that this is a good conference. It's great. But you've got to have a conference that promotes you, and football is obviously going to get the lion's share of promotional campaigns. So I think that most of us just go about our business and try to get it done on the field. Hey,
let me ask, with your do you have any freshmen coming in that you know of that you think could see significant time or contribute?
One of my non-negotiables, then, if you will, is that it doesn't matter what year you are. If you can play, you're going to play.
Yeah.
And so we'll start a freshman. Now, we started a lot more freshmen 7 years ago.
Yeah.
We were trying to build the program up.
Yeah.
We still start freshmen. And I think there's going to be 2 or 3 of them that are in the equation to start and play regular rotation minutes, and then a couple of others that are in that equation for rotation minutes on a regular basis.
Wow.
So I'm excited about things. It was losing Ben halfway through the recruiting period. That hurt. But we managed to still have a really good class. Kyle Clancy came in as my new assistant. Kyle came from Knox College and has picked up Ben's work, and I feel good about our class. The last 2 classes before that were really good, so it was always hard to compete with that. And kids see that you have a lot of upperclassmen, and they aren't looking to go there this year because they aren't going to play as much. They don't think they're going to play as much. So I will say that I have no fear in playing freshmen. They may make a freshman mistake, and they will, but it does pay off down the road.
Yeah, and I think it's not a luxury. I think it's a luxury if you're a team and you don't need or want your freshmen to play.
Yeah,
I've
never been in that spot here.
Yeah.
It's one of the selling points, though. Come on down here, you'll play.
Come on. Yeah. So, what are some players that I should be aware of to watch this fall?
Well, if you're going to start in that route, you have to go with Dave Beatty. Dave was all-region last year. He's been all-conference all 3 years. He is a really special player. He played for the Crew DA up until his senior year in high school, because then he wanted to play high school his senior year, which you aren't allowed to do if you're in the DA. He had D1 offers. He turned them down, came to Marietta. Got a personal connection. Mom, grandparents went to Marietta. That certainly helped, but we did a good job of showing him what we could do, and he was OAC freshman of the year, his first year, defender of the year this past year, and all conference and all region this year. So he's one of the few that have ever gotten that all region here at the college. So you would start with him in terms of he's not going to score goals, but he's going to keep the ball out of the back of the net, and the conference knows that he can play. We got a player returning for a 5th year, Gavin Long. Gavin is a kid from the UK, is probably, without question, our most creative player.
Mm-hmm.
And interesting story with Gavin. Here's that D1 versus D3 world. You know, it's D1 or bust. Got to go D1. Gab played here for 2 years, transferred to UNC Asheville in the spring of 21. Played at UNC Asheville. Played sizable minutes. Scored some goals. Transferred back after that. And certainly not putting words in his mouth, but, you know, it's not all it was cracked up to be. We take care of our players better here at Marietta than they did at that institution for some reason. So Gab will be an important now. He's coming off an ACL tear. So we'll see. I know he has been diligent about, you know, his work. But those 2 guys, I mean, there's 4 or 5 others. I don't want to spend too much time on this, and I hate pointing out 2 guys. It's not normally my style.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys deserve a little bit of accolades, but they've got to perform on the field. Yeah. And Gav's got to score goals. Dave's got to keep the ball in the back of the net. That for us to be successful.
Yeah. All right, so let's go there. D1 or bust. What are you? do you have an opinion on that?
I will be as PC as possible. Yeah.
No, don't. Please don't.
I understand that there is certainly a lure of going to D1. But there are D1 institutions that certain players go to that just aren't very good programs, haven't been successful, aren't going to be successful because the funding is not there. But the kid could say, I'm going to D1. Or the kid's going to D1 and he just doesn't play, where he can go to D3 and be an absolute stud at D3. So it's frustrating in that regard. We lose kids every year to, you know, lower level D1s. I'm not recruiting a guy that's going Power 5.
No. Yeah.
Not happening. It's those lower level D1s that we lose out to. And I so badly want to say to the kid, look at their facilities, look at our facilities.
Yeah.
We've got our own building, essentially, with our locker room, our offices, right behind our field, which is, you know, soccer and lacrosse field.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they're going to go to a place where they're sharing a field. The line that was said to me many, many years ago, I think is still true. I hope they get a good tracksuit, because that may be all they get.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're willing to go play there and win 3 or 4 games a year, or even 6 games a year, and play a little bit, then good for them. I mean, I'm not going to disparage any kid who wants to do that, because I understand that whole D1 mentality. Yeah. But it frustrates me that there are really good soccer programs in the state of Ohio at the Division III level that might get ignored by schools, because I got to go D1. My club tells me I got to go D1. My club wants me to go D1. Yeah. I get it. Nothing wrong with going D3. You're going to get a great education either place you go, but you're going to get a great experience in the soccer at this place, or at John Carroll, or at Ohio Northern, or at Otterbein, any of those places.
Yeah, no, that's the interesting thing, is just the whole notion that players, I think it's a misperception of what D1 soccer is about. And I think it's because they think everyone is like Maryland, everybody's like UNC, everybody's like Santa Clara, and that is so far not the case. And and I talking yesterday, I think COVID is part responsible for, but it's not the only reason why the transfer window or the transfer portal is there's so many kids looking to transfer, right? I think a lot of guys have realized it's just not cracked up to be what cracked all up to be, right?
That's where a guy like a John Carroll Dehan, or an Alan Yost or a Jason Griffiths at Otterbein and Capital, they can be successful with that because they got these Columbus kids or Cleveland kids that went D1 that didn't like it, came back, they want to go back to Cleveland, go back to home. I don't have too many guys out of Marietta going D1, coming back to Marietta College. It doesn't, we don't get that.
Yeah.
So the portal is the wild, wild west. It's crazy, but it just it shows you a little bit about what's going on in today's world and so forth. Very much, what have you done for me lately, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if I was on the D1 side, I'd be selling that D1 all day long.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's in your bag? That's what's in my bag. I'm D1. Okay. I get it.
They do a good job with that. So
yeah.
I would just love to sit down with a club and say, here are the things that we offer. Here are the things that they offer. How much different really are they, other than at the level we're talking about, not the Power Fives, the lower D1s. How much different are they?
Yeah.
I mean, to my mind, there's not a ton of difference.
Yeah, I do. You're right. I mean, there's a level there that it's really not competitive, right? Like you're not, like you said, you're not competing against Maryland, right? No. You're not for that player. If that player is being recruited by Maryland, he is beyond. He's the type of player that's just beyond Division III, probably talent wise.
I'm going to stop wasting my time with that guy.
Exactly. Exactly, because if it's not Maryland, it's going to be UNC or it's Duke or it's somebody like that. But, right, and we won't name them, but there's countless others, 200 other schools, Division I schools that have programs that they're not those guys. And
when they're not fully funded, it just sets them up not to be successful.
Yeah.
So that's the trick of the D1 and the D2 world, to be fully funded.
Yeah. Hey, so to shift over to recruiting, real quick, do you know those the websites that that help with recruiting or help a kid get recruited? I mean, do you use those at all, like the NCSA or?
Yeah, I mean, we'll field level NCSA. There's sports recruits. Yes, we'll look at that. The thing that probably gets us most interested there is the videos. So you can't get everywhere. You can't be everywhere. And there's just a proliferation of tournaments nowadays. It's watered it down to some degree. So we'll use them. We don't rely on them solely, but we use them. And we also know that some are better than others in terms of the quality of player and so forth. But I'm not going to say we don't use them, because we do.
Yeah. Speaking of tournaments and showcases, do you go to a lot of showcases? Do you like them, or are you very particular about where you go to?
Well, your budget obviously leads you to go to all of them. I could literally go somewhere every weekend of the year.
Yeah.
And that doesn't give you a very good home life. And it's not good. So yes, we will go to showcases. We'll obviously go to Blue Chip. We'll go to Grand Park over at Crossroads. We've been down to Raleigh Showcase. We do Jeff Cup. So we'll do the big ones. And then we'll hit some smaller ones as well. Nothing frustrates us more as coaches than when players don't fill out, or clubs don't fill out the profiles in the book, and then don't hand out updated profiles on the sideline.
Yeah.
I just don't, and it's gotten worse. How do you expect us to recruit your kids if you don't give us their contact info? And that's a real problem.
Yeah.
There are some of these tournaments now use apps, which my assistant loved the app that we used at Blue Chip. I can't remember off the top of my head. So yes, there's that there, but if they're not filled in, it's only good as what the club is filling in, and that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
But we will go to these showcases, and I will tell you what, the Blue Chip and Crossroads and Jeff Cup, the three big ones in our region, they do a really nice job of taking care of college coaches in terms of feeding you and giving you things to look and so forth. So I appreciate that. Those are important events for us. We've got to identify that, because we cannot get to high school games in the fall. I'm 2 hours from Columbus. So it's just not possible.
Yeah.
That was one thing that was different about fall COVID year. The high school kids still played. we can get to high school games,
Yeah.
which we never get to do.
Mm-hmm.
That in a normal season, we can't get to them. There'll be a good team coming to play Marietta every so often. We see Marietta quite a bit. We'll get a Marietta kid or two, high school, each year. So we'll see them, but it's just hard to do. So we can't rely on high school stuff.
Yeah. Do you like high school? I mean, soccer.
I think it's got a place for
Yeah.
sure. You think about this. You and I are similar age. I'm a little bit older than you, but you remember that Friday night or Saturday night game in front of all your fans, good crowd at your high school. That was fun.
Yeah.
I don't have any expectations that high school soccer is going to be great soccer, because you're going to have kids that can play and the kids that just aren't very good. But it's fun, and it's good experience for those kids. I know my son, who's going into 8th grade, he's looking forward to trying out for the high school team, maybe making the high school team and playing high school soccer in front of fans. There's nothing like playing in front of fans.
Yeah.
So I think high school soccer's got its place. The Power Fives of the world don't need high school soccer. They don't. They might show up there just to show support for the kid, but they don't need it.
No. They don't waste their time. That's
for sure.
Yeah. Hey, do you run ID camps, and are those a big part of your recruiting process?
So we just had our ID camp this past Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I resisted ID camps for a while. Ben finally convinced me to do one, and we would get 25 kids, which was nice. And I will be honest with you, we've gotten at least 2 players from every ID camp that we've done come to Marietta, and we've identified them off the ID camp, so they've worked. This past weekend, we had 60 kids at our ID camp. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I mean, I had to call up Dehan and ask him how they do it, because they get that number all the time.
Yeah.
And he gave me some good helpful hints on how to do it. I was blown away by what we had this past weekend. Part of that's Kyle, my assistant, doing a good job. But I also want to think part of it is there is an interest to play at Marietta College at this point in time that wasn't there 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So we've identified some talent off of this ID camp that we obviously are already working with, or will continue to work with, or we'll start working with. So ID camps are important. We have started doing 2 a year, one in the summer, one after the season is over.
Yeah.
That one's not as well attended, but it still gets, players here.
Wow, that's
so,
remarkable. 60 players. Yeah. 60 players. That's wow.
I had to bring in extra coaches.
Yeah.
Because you want to give the student athlete the experience. You want to give them the look. But if it's just Kyle and I, it was no chance. So we had, our ratio was about 12.5 to 1, because you take the keepers out of that equation.
Yeah.
Which I think was a fair number. And we extended the camp a little bit, and nobody complained. Just because of the numbers. I was not when you talk to Dehan, that's their norm. They get that all the time.
That's like, what? Just 60? Come on. I do that, every weekend.
Down here in Southeast Ohio, that was a big time.
That's great. You might have made the newspaper, right? Like 60 kids.
Well, we get regular newspaper coverage and some TV coverage. That's a perk of being in small town Ohio.
Yeah. That's awesome. Hey, last question. I'll let you get on with the day, with your day. If you're talking to a high school prospect, and you're trying to explain to them sort of what are the things that they're going to have to learn or grow into to get acclimated to Marietta / the college game, the D3 game, what would you tell them?
Couple things. One, we've got to recruit technical players that can play the way we want to play. I have this vision because of who I played for in the USL, a very possessions-oriented style. I want to keep the ball and knock the ball around. We're not always successful at it, but that's what we want to do. So I got to have the guys that can fit into that. Because we're not going to smash it over the midfield all day long and just play it up top. That's not what we're going to do. So they got to be able to either play that system today or adapt to that system. Physicality. The college game is physical. They don't understand it until they get here, So they're going to have to understand and get in the weight room to build some of that mass up to be able to withstand those challenges that happen in the conference game, in a D3 game. It's just more physical, it's faster, so you got to be adjusted to that as well. So those are your technical ability, your speed of play, and your ability to handle it. I'm not asking guys to go out and hit people.
Yeah.
I'm asking guys, they're going to get hit. Can they withstand that hit and keep the ball and keep the play going?
Yeah.
So they've got to understand those things are different. It's not like it was at high school or club. It's different at the college game, and every coach probably says very similar things. These prospects look at you. In terms of Marietta, you get good treatment here. We play in front of fans. We'll be in the top 20 in attendance in D3 soccer every year. Our homecoming game against Carroll this year was just packed. And Dehan says to me, this is a great D3 atmosphere. And it is. So you get treated a little bit differently down here. You get a little bit more notoriety, if you will, coming to a smaller town versus going to Cleveland or Columbus or Cincinnati. So that's kind of fun. But we want guys that can embrace that and have that blue-collar mentality that it requires to be here. Because we're not a fancy side. We're not super pretty about what we do. We try to be. But this is, it's a hard-working team. And, that's always been our mantra, is this blue-collar mentality. And the guys need to be adjusting to that and ready to play that. If they can't, then I'm recruiting the wrong guy. I made a mistake.
All right, Coach. This was awesome. As much as it pains me to say that, talking to someone from Marietta, this was really
good. You did Ben's interview. You couldn't even say Marietta after the first couple of times.
No, I couldn't. It's just, it hurt. It hurt too much. And I was glad you left.
I appreciate you. Everybody you talk to that I've watched has got great programs. So I appreciate you broadening your horizon to the programs that want to be great, that are not great, that don't have a great history, but that all the things you do for D3 soccer. I read some of the stuff that gets put on the boards at D3 soccer. I think that's kind of fun. I don't engage in it, but I do read about it. I'm entertained by that. And I love when people talk about the Great Lakes region or OAC in particular. I think that's a lot of fun.
I'll keep doing it, and I might have to either take a drive down there. I have to go to Wheeling tonight for business, and I'm thinking of taking it.
Wheeling's 90 minutes.
There is a possibility of that happening. So,
if you do, shoot me a message. I'll give you a tour of the building, the facilities.
Nice.
And I'll make sure you walk out on the blue turf, and we'll take a picture.
Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, it's like that's the draw. I'm like, I have to stand on that blue turf. Like that's just center of it. I'm good. I can't believe that you had to get Boise approval. Like I had no idea.
Lawyers.
I can't believe that is something that they have I don't know if it's not a patent, a trademark on.
Yeah.
Which
it was. I'll be honest with you, I was a bit skeptical, but when it got put down, I thought, all right, this is pretty cool.
You were like, okay, I'm bought in.
So one last thing that I'll say, and this was about the blue turf. So Jay Martin and Owu came down here for the spring game, and obviously, Jay is very much traditionalist.
Yeah.
He walks out in the field, and I'm talking to him, and I've worked Jay's camps. I have a great deal of respect. I love listening to Jay talk.
Yeah.
He just learned stuff I listen to.
Oh, my gosh.
He comes out there and says, I got to tell you, Joe. And I said, what, Jay? I don't like it. I don't like the blue. I didn't think you would, Jay, but that's okay.
That's okay. Not everyone has a stadium named after ourselves in a pristine grass field. Like some of us can't do that.
It was kind of fun going back there after having been there in the early '80s. When I played for Marietta. So he was gracious enough to come down here and play us in the spring. It was a good game, and it was funny to hear because he'd never been here before. He'd been here in 40 years.
Yeah.
his opinion on blue turf. Because now it's a love or hate. You really hate it or you love it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You got an opinion about it. There's no indifference, right?
We're talking about it. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah,
See the bad publicity there.
When
I start to get a phone call from you in the next 12 hours saying, I'll be there.
I have to check the map. Let me check the map because I got to make my way back by like Thursday night somehow. I'll show up at 2 a.m. at home, but I'll figure it out. I'm serious. I'm like, okay, the blue turf is calling.
I'll show you the whole setup. You'll be like, wow, Marietta has really gotten into soccer all of a sudden.
If I show up, you have to do me a favor because usually every time I show up to schools, like the bookstore is closed, so you're gonna have to pick up. I'll in full disclosure, this is not a business relationship. Well, it is. You'll be the middleman. You get me the hat, and I will pay you for the hat. So,
got it.
But anyhow, Coach. Thanks a million for this. This was fantastic. This was awesome.
It's been a lot of fun, so I appreciate it. Thank you for everything you do, and hope to see you in the next 24 hours.
Yeah.